What's going on, everybody? It is Triple Crown 24 back today to tie up the loose ends of the 2022 National. The 42nd National is now in the books. I made the very long trek back from Atlantic City in one shot last night, and it wasn't too bad. I was a little groggy at the end. I didn't drive unsafely at all, but I was definitely feeling it when I pulled up into the driveway and put my car in park. It is kind of like a, oh boy, I'm ready for bed type of feeling there. And I probably fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow last night. But it's just because I spent a lot of energy at the show. I spent a lot of time and hung out with so many great people that it was definitely worth the trip. And it was just such an enjoyable experience. So I don't want to do really a day 4 recap too much because I only bought one card on day 4. Kind of how the day went down is I got a bit of a late start to the day. And then when I got there, I was actually trying to find an energy drink. And I spent probably an hour and a half going from concession stand to concession stand. Some of them tell me when they were going to open, and then they weren't actually open. Some of the people got like really mad at me when I stepped in when it appeared they were open, and they were just yelling at me like, "We're not open yet. We're not open yet." Like, I'm sorry. I thought you were open. It looks like you're open. Like, sorry about that. But eventually I found one. So that once I got caffeinated, I was ready to take on the world once again. And I met up with Eric, those back pages. Met up with Mike O, and Scott, Big Scott 35, just kind of shooting the bull, talking about some stuff. And Eric told me there was this McDavid that he was looking at over at Ryan Card Collector 2's booth. So we went over there, and it kind of felt like there's like a YouTube get together almost on the show floor, because Mike and Andy, my roommates, kind of came over, and so did Josh, rated rookie. I know Lou Rock was there. It felt like there was like 24 people that kind of converged all in this like one little spot, because I was talking with Nate, who's on Ryan's team, and all of a sudden I turn around and there's like, oh my God, there's like 20 YouTubers that are right behind me here. So Ryan and I have similar tastes. So whenever I go over to his table, typically there's something that I find that I want to bundle. So I told Eric, let's go over there. Let's see what he has. He had several cards. He had 2 Dwayne Wade cards that I really liked. And the one that I ended up picking up, I didn't notice at first. I was looking at this Optic card that was out of 8. But then I saw this one, and it was stickered at the same price. And I'm like, well, I don't know off the top of my head what is a fair price for these. Typically, I know Ryan's pricing insight, and that he is pretty fair on a lot of stuff. You know, it's a lot of his sticker prices are very tempting, even at sticker price. And just from going in a shop and all that, there's been a few times that I've been tempted to pull the trigger on a few things. But I saw this one, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to go for. And initially I tried to buy them outright, couldn't quite come to an agreement, so I turned around, kind of thought about it, and then I turned back after I saw someone else try to make a trade. And I'm like, well, you know, I had a feeling that the people on Ryan's team would be willing to talk trade. I wasn't sure how that worked if he wasn't there, because I know that normally he's the one who I trade with. So once I saw that other people were making trades, I'm like, okay, well, let me take my stuff out and we'll see what happens. And I ended up working with Nate, who I've seen several times whenever I've gone to Ryan's shop, just visiting the shop or going to trade nights, whatever the case may be. And he's always incredibly friendly and a great guy to work with. So when he looked at my stuff, he probably pulled out like 9 cards or so from my little case. And I thought, okay, we're definitely going to work something out here, because he had a lot of interest in a lot of stuff. So he told me right away what he was looking to get out of this deal. And I told him kind of what I was looking to get out of the deal, which made things go much smoother. It was definitely still a process, kind of mixing and matching all the moving pieces here, figuring out how much cash to involve, talking through our feelings on the deal. But it was a really healthy trade discussion. It was one of my favorite dealer-to-dealer interactions that I had throughout the entire weekend, just because it's how I like to do business. You know, let's lay all of our cards out on the table, no pun intended, and hammer this out. So that's what we ended up doing. And the cards that I gave up, there were some of the more interesting ones. So there was something like the Acuna timeline that I showed you guys earlier in the week, the National Treasures rookie auto. And then the Wander Blue that I had acquired at trade night, that PSA 10, where I said it back then that the recent sales on that card, there was only one just below $900. And I didn't think it was worth that much. I kind of discounted it a bit when I told him, this is how much I value it at personally. But I felt like those two cards would have been very strong trade chips for me. And I gave up a few others, some cards that maybe I thought maybe I could get a little bit more for down the line, but I knew right away that the McDavid card that was going to Eric, exactly what he was going to pay me to get it. So it was just one of those things where I knew I had the surefire sale basically in that card, and it was well worth it for me to just kind of package these together to get something that I really liked and really wanted. So ended up with this D-Wade Gold Refractor, and that's kind of one of my main 6 cards that I have here is to show that I came back with. I ended up selling both my Ralph Kiner, or excuse me, not Ralph Kiner, Stan Musial 49 Bowmans. One of them went to Don's Field of Dreams, and I'll let him show that off and talk more about it in his recap. I'm sure he'll do one here once he gets back home. Another great YouTuber that I met up with there at the show a couple of times. So I have my other stack of stuff. There's a lot of like Tigers autographs in here. There's some custom cards of YouTubers that are in here too, so I'll have to get those into the YouTube binder at some point. But in general, these were kind of the big 6 that I'm walking away with from this show, and I thought it was an incredibly successful show. And even though I did my preview video for Sports Card Psychology, and I will say that a lot of what I said in the preview video is still how I felt the show actually went down, having now experienced it and seen what actually played out. But even going into that video or going into the show even, I didn't know exactly how this National was going to pan out. There is probably more uncertainty around what this National was going to look like than there has been in a long time. Where would dealers be at with prices? Who was going to be there? Would the show be well attended? For multiple reasons. You have the economy, you have inflation, you have travel issues going to Atlantic City, you have people who just don't like the fact that it's in Atlantic City. And all that being said, you really probably wouldn't notice it in a vacuum if you were just standing there on the show floor, because it was so well attended. Everything that the social media team for the National talked about in terms of attendance, it looked like that's how it played out, because there were just so many people there. And anyone who thinks the hobby is dying or anything like that, or there's decreased interest, I wish I could plop you in the heart of the show floor there on Saturday afternoon, because it was just as crazy as it was in 2021. If you see footage of the trade nights, they were just as popular, if not even more popular than they were last year. You didn't have as many like pop-up ones like you saw in the Chicago hotels, but there were some that definitely broke out in certain places. And I just thought that it was very interesting to see it, and just I'm very happy that it played out the way that it did. There's a couple of interactions here or there that are a little bit negative. You guys heard about the one in Mike Baseball Collector Day 1 recap where we ran into the Grinch. But there's just so many cool people that I met, not even content creators, just random people on the show floor that we talked to. But so many great memories there. I got to go out to lunch with my friend Brian and kind of just really talk about the hobby and a lot of the things that are involved with that. I got to see other people buy cars, and there's a few that jump out, like making the deal at Ryan's table to get the Wade for myself, but also get the McDavid for Eric, because I know that he was really eyeing that card. Or when I saw Andy buy his big pickup from the show. He hasn't done his recap yet, so I don't want to spoil what it was, but It was a card he was targeting at last year's National. He probably got it for, I would say, a third of what he would have had to pay at last year's show. So just happy that he finally got it and got it for much cheaper. I know that last year he couldn't get it, but now he did. It was very interesting because Mike, baseball collector, once again, when he bought his 53 mantle, it was from a dealer who I've known since I started doing this full time. He's local to my neck of the woods, and he had a booth at the National and got to see him. I actually ran into him on Tuesday for day zero, so that was cool to run into him, and then kind of a meeting of the worlds for me, almost seeing one friend that I know from this area of the hobby interact with a friend that I know from another area of the hobby, and they make a deal for one friend where he gets a big card off his list, and that was just super cool to me. And of course, again, seeing Andy make his deal go down, I sold a couple of cards, or I made one trade and one sale to Josh, rated rookie. We were staying together, and just such an incredible guy to hang out with, and his friend as well was there too, and those guys are so cool. And my other roommates too, you have Jake, Legends Never Die, Joe, Silver Jackify, and all the great YouTubers that I met up with, and all the content creators I met up with was just so incredible. Too many to name. And I'm not going to even try to name them all because I would be doing a disservice if I left anybody out, and I would feel bad about that. So I'm not going to try to do that. But in addition to that, I had more people at this show come up to me who said that they enjoyed my content. And Andy kind of made this joke earlier at the end of the show, but he's like, whenever people recognize him, they're like, "Oh, you're Mike O's friend. You're Mike Baseball Collector's friend." Like, but there were people who were, who approached me on the show floor who told me that they really did enjoy my content, or that they listened to me. Someone said that they were a fan of my channel, which I couldn't, I never, I just find it weird that someone would be like a fan of my content. I don't like to use that word or refer to people who watch my stuff as fans, so to speak. I mean, I feel like it makes me sound, I don't know, just I never like to say that about myself. It doesn't vibe with me. But when people tell you how much that they appreciate what you do or appreciate the content you put out, it really does mean a lot. And it was also cool to see that even when it wasn't me, the people who would come up to Mike, the people who would come up to Mike O, the people who would come up to Eric. Everybody knows Eric, right? But anybody who kind of came up to these other content creators who I was walking around with, and seeing the appreciation for their content as well, because I appreciate what they do, and it really does mean a lot when you're putting that work in, and you know that someone is listening, that someone values what you have to say. It makes you feel like you are contributing something to the hobby. And to those of you who did say those things to me, thank you, because it really does mean a lot. I will remember those interactions much more than I will 99.9% of dealer interactions that I had, just because they were so special and so unique. And just, it really does warm my heart. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of that without rambling on for another 20 minutes, and I will, so I'm not going to do that. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for that. It really does mean a lot. So what you see behind you is kind of my big six from the show, and I actually did what I call a -9 on Saturday, where I only acquired one new card that I carry around in my case, and that will be this one right here. And there were 10 that I either sold or traded away. So that, 1 minus 10 is 9. So there's 9 cards fewer in my case. The case is certainly much lighter than coming back than it was going there. So it will be time to restock here a little bit after the National. A lot of people go to the National to buy cards. Now I got to kind of go, now that I've left the National selling cards, it's time to reload a little bit. So I'll be looking to do that here the next few weeks. And but overall, just kind of mission accomplished. I had a great time, which is what I wanted to do, of course. This was really the really big card I wanted to go after. If there's one thing that I would say I didn't get that I was really targeting, it was a couple of vintage cards, but it didn't work out. There were opportunities, it just didn't work out. And that's okay, because there will be more opportunities in the future on some of those cards. But for me, it was a very successful national, and Chicago is a go for 2023. I guess that's going to be the new hashtag for next year's show. But thank you all so much for watching. I am kind of getting things ready to do a new podcast episode on Thursday. I have a few guests in mind, but tomorrow will be my day that I really reach out and try to figure some things out and see if we can line up some guests for some future episodes. But other than that, it's back in the saddle tomorrow, back on the grind, and time to keep growing things. So thank you sincerely again. If you watched all the national content that I put out, I know that I don't have the best editing. I didn't really put any show clips in there this year. It's mostly me just rambling on about cards. But if you watch this channel for any length of time, you know that it's pretty much what you get when you sign up for this. But hey, if you did watch all the content, thank you so much. That it really does mean a lot to me, and hopefully I'll see you around here as we head into the fall and start the journey to Chicago in 2023. But gonna take some time to rest a little bit here on this Sunday when I'm recording this. I'll probably upload this on Monday. And yeah, see you later this week. Take care, stay safe, be kind.